Hi, you guys. So I'm going to spend some time going over homeostasis and some of the body systems just to kind of reiterate some of the points that I was trying to make during the last lesson with you guys. So I just wanted to go ahead and to draw some of the connections, okay? I have this short introduction video for you. It's from Big Bang Theory. So this is when Sheldon explains
Okay, what did Amy
homeostasis.
tell you?
Oh, very well. Can't keep up this clever charade any longer. She told me that you were thinking of ending it with Leonard.
Okay, you listen to me. I think it's really sweet you're trying to protect your friend, but this is none of your business, got it?
Excuse me, this is not about protecting my friend. I'm a big fan of homeostasis. Do you know what that is?
Of course not.
Homeostasis refers to a system's ability to regulate its internal environment and maintain a constant condition of properties like temperature or pH.
Worst bedtime story ever.
My point is, I don't like when things change. So, regardless of your feelings, I would like you to continue dating Leonard.
So, in that short section, what you'll see is that they're describing homeostasis as a point of that we are remaining the same and nothing changes, right? So that is pretty much what happens is that all the body systems that you have, so circulatory, respiratory, all of those different tissues and organs and everything like that is working on one goal, which is to maintain the same body conditions. Ideally, we're looking at temperature, water levels, oxygen levels, glucose levels, and we want to do this despite having a big change in our environment. And we can cause different stresses on our body, like exercising or being out somewhere, right? Anything that causes like a stress to your body where you feel like a little bit uncomfortable, like body-wise, that counts as a stressor that goes ahead and ultimately like changes up homeostasis. Okay, so some of the classic examples is, for example, if you are on a cold day, your body will naturally start to shiver in order to go ahead and to give yourself some warmth. So what happens is that technically your muscles are going ahead and producing their own heat, so that it's able to keep you warmer. And then on a very warm day, you'll notice is that once you're standing in the sun for a very long time, you will start to sweat. And the reason why you sweat is that the liquid that develops on your skin, when it evaporates, it goes ahead and it cools off the rest of your body. And your body is also letting go of the heat that's in its blood vessels and all of that. So all of these things are all of the different body systems that are actually working together, trying to keep everything the same in your body. Right. So this is just a list of some of the different reactions, and you guys are going to need this later for your assignment. But basically, right, your circulatory system can do a couple of things. It can increase your heart rate. So you want to, at some certain times, you want to increase the flow of nutrients or oxygen to your body. So if you want increased oxygen, that means that you're breathing faster, right? And that you are going ahead and increasing your breathing rate like you see down here. We're going ahead and we're talking about that increase of breathing rate, and we're trying to respond to higher needs of oxygen. Also in your circulatory system, you see that blood vessels can get bigger, and that can allow more blood with nutrients. You have to keep in mind that your blood is always carrying oxygen, it's carrying waste, and it's also carrying glucose, which is something that you need to go ahead and do. Your blood vessels can also shrink to go ahead and to kind of keep in heat. And it also shrinks like if you don't need like that much blood to certain places. So during certain times, right, you're gonna go ahead and they have like fight or flight. So if you need to rest and digest your stuff, right, you're gonna have more blood vessels that it's going there rather than other places in your body, right? So that is kind of one thing. Your nervous system actually controls like your thirst levels. So in your brain, there's like a little organ that goes ahead and controls how much liquid you need and all of that. Your digestive system can go ahead and can control, like, if you feel hungry or if you feel full. So your digestive system sends a signal up to your brain, right? And it tells it like, okay, I am full, right? Or like, okay, I need energy. Right. And if you need energy, right, you'll go ahead and you'll have that natural hunger state. And your body's asking for more glucose, right? Your integumentary system, which is basically your skin, can cause you to sweat. An increase in temperature can cause the body to cool itself, right? So you want to go ahead and you want to cool that. Muscular system can cause shivering, and also involuntary contractions can produce that warmth. These are just a couple of examples of what your body is able to do, but it's definitely some of the ways that your body is able to go ahead and interact with some of the other systems. And you'll see that some of these things like hacks to actually work together, such as when we're talking about exercise, right? If you're exercising and you're starting to work out vigorously, that is a stress on your body, right? So it will cause us to go ahead and to have an increase in heart rate, because we want to go ahead and we want to get more oxygen out to your muscles and stuff that are working. You might have some vasodilation. You want your blood vessels to get bigger in your muscles so that your muscles are able to go ahead and to respond to that. You might have some sweat, right? You're going to have an increased breathing rate. All of those things are things that you guys need, right? And those are some of the reactions that your body can have. And your body can have many different reactions to different stresses. Like when you're sick, right? You start to feel crummy, right? You can't breathe and all of that, right? So you're kind of voluntarily like putting some stress on your respiratory and circulatory system, even when you are like feeling sick, for example. Okay. So these are just a few examples of some of the systems that I want to kind of for you guys to see how like some of these things are working together, right? We have a nervous system up here, which basically sends us a signal that we have too little water in our blood. That goes to the kidney, right? The kidney is going to go ahead and it's going to absorb more water so that it sends some of the water back into the circulatory system. And the urine that is lost is going to have pretty much, it's going to be more concentrated because it's going to have like actual like less waste, right? Another example is when you're hungry, right? When you're hungry or after you just eat, this is when you just eat. Yes. So when you just eat, what happens is that you go ahead and you let out some of the insulin, and that insulin goes ahead and puts the glucose inside of the cell, right? And we go ahead and we take some of that glucose out. And what we want is that we want to take some of the glucose out so that some of the different cells can use them, so that the cells can go ahead and have the energy that they need to survive. Because remember that glucose is one of the things that you guys absolutely need for cellular respiration, right? So you see digestive and circulatory stuff and pretty much all the other systems that rely on glucose working together to make it work, right? So how does your body go ahead and to pick stuff that is working, and how do we get the stuff to work? How does our body regulate it? So one of the things that our body does is something called a negative feedback loop. A lot of people like to think of this as a thermostat or like an on and off switch. Basically, right, your body has to turn some things and some systems on and some things and some systems off, right? Here is our person at stable like condition, right? So this person is pretty much stable. If the body temperature increases, right, what's going to happen is that this little person is going to start sweating, right? He sweats and sweats and sweats until his body temperature goes back down and he's trying to get back into this normal, right? If this person goes ahead and goes outside and gets really cold, what will happen is that this person will shiver and start moving their muscles involuntarily so much that their body temperature will hopefully increase and come back to normal, right? So that's kind of like the purpose of like putting on a jacket, right? You're just helping out your body, right? So that it doesn't use like so much extra energy so that it's normal. And this is just like kind of like one example of a negative feedback loop. So you have to think about negative feedback loops as like we turn stuff on, so that we get back to normal, and then we turn it off, right? We turn something on until it gets back to normal, right? And then we turn it back off once it gets back to normal. So that is pretty much what is happening in your negative feedback loop. And there's also something called positive feedback loops. This is not too common of an example. Negative feedback loops are ultimately more important, but in case this shows up on your test, I just want to make sure that I go over this with you guys. So basically, a positive feedback loop is pretty much you're turning on the on switch like over and over again. Like there's pretty much like no off switch too much. So an example of this is like when you get a cut. So when you get a cut, right, what happens is that we call in some of these platelets, which basically like clog blood. And we basically, pretty much what you see here is that we're calling these platelets and keep on calling and calling these platelets until a clot is formed, right? So once the clot is formed and we have enough, then we stop it, right? So pretty much the basic thing that happens on a positive feedback loop is this key difference is that it turns on, and then this thing turning on causes more things to turn on, and then it doesn't turn off until like it is back to normal, right? The difference that you see here is that we turn things on, right? And then we turn them off, right? And most of the time, this thing is off until there is some sort of imbalance, right? A positive feedback loop, we keep on turning it on over and over and over and over again, right? And it's just a bunch of on switches. A negative feedback loop is that we go ahead and we turn things on and off, on and off, on and off, right? So those are kind of like some of the things that you guys need to make sure that you guys are getting a hold of. Okay, so overall, right, what your body is trying to do is in homeostasis to keep everything in check using, right, positive and negative feedback loops throughout. So the body is trying to do its best to stay at the same temperature, the same pH, the same levels of oxygen, glucose, and water levels. And those are the things that we want to kind of go ahead and that we want to do, right? So if you guys look at this example over here, right, this blood glucose level rises, right? We go ahead and we have our cells that intakes glucose, right? The glucose levels ultimately decline in our blood, and we bring those glucoses stuff back to normal, right? Another example could be like stuff that happens in diabetes and stuff like that. Is like whenever we're out of homeostasis, right? That is like our cause of diseases. So lots of diseases go ahead and like cause an imbalance in homeostasis. Somewhere, somehow, something's not working, right? Which does not let our stuff kind of go back into normal. So if you look at this, right, we want to go ahead and we want to keep the same physical and chemical conditions at all times. So that's kind of like the goal, right, is that we want to keep everything the same, and our body will go ahead and we'll have to turn things on and keep them on for a while, right? Or they will turn things on and off until like everything is stable. So pretty much that is what homeostasis is going for.